exciting, and not snowing. So, Melissa, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Brumbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Fasig?
Yes.
Mrs. Fenstermaker?
Yes.
Mr. George?
Here.
Mrs. Klein?
Yes. Thank you. You have the minutes from February 14th attached. Take a second to look through those, please.
I make a motion to approve minutes from February 14th.
For a second? Beth, second. Any further discussion? I will tell you where Pandas has taken over the phone service. We didn't have service one morning, and that was still with the old one, but by late afternoon, it was converted. So, go ahead and please call the roll.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Brumbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Fasig?
Yes.
Mr. George?
Yes.
Mrs. Fenstermaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Klein?
Yes.
Thank you. Visitors this evening, John, would you like to speak?
Yeah, appreciate it. First off, I just wanted to say thanks for allowing me to come and talk tonight. There's plenty of small town gossip as far as what's going on downtown, so here to set some records straight. The company that we've actually got formed recently purchased the old bar. We're probably about 3 weeks away from, on our firm side, from getting apartments renovated. So I'd like to actually do kind of a formal invite for anybody that wanted to come see progress, what we're doing, the improvements we've made. That way we can actually kind of maybe set some standards for what livability looks like without trying to poke and prod. I also wanted to check on the status of a downtown association. If I recall correctly, probably 3-4 months ago.
I think November, maybe.
Ish. There was a conversation started as far as potentially getting a group of people together that had properties downtown Macomb to set some standards as far as historic preservation, kind of cleaning up some of the areas. I think that that's still an opportunity, and I would like to reinvigorate that conversation. There's definitely some benefit that I think that myself and several other of the owners would see out of that. So I'd like to get that started again, if that's something that the council would like.
I do have that on mine tonight, have an update on that.
Okay.
So.
Very good. Last one. I don't talk long in front of people, I'm sorry, apologize. We're planning on doing a grand opening for the downtown, or the downstairs portion of the business, probably midsummer. Will be kind of an open house, taste testing, kind of just some insight as far as kind of the historical preservation that we've currently got incorporated, plus what the future looks like for the businesses. In addition, we want to do something like a movie night and kind of like a little picnic on the lawn in the back side of the property, which is actually the back part of the library. So working with those folks, probably show like a big movie on the back of the building, make it a big community event, and kind of get some energy started back downtown again. So, that's it.
Cameron, did you want to ask about that?
Yes. We're installing cameras downstairs and upstairs.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want access? Where do you want them focused at so we can prevent things from happening?
I don't need access. That I can come to you for, and I can come in and look at the building and tell you where
Perfect.
the best spots would be.
But I know John wants it kind of like the ones where you can get on Finley
Oh,
and
I
see
apologize.
the traffic.
Yeah, there's 2 different camera conversations.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. That was one. The other one was actually Finley and some other larger communities around the area actually have downtown cameras, and that's something that I think that would be interesting. Actually, myself, family-wise, personally, my wife, her grandparents before they had passed, that was one thing that they would actually ask us to do, is to go downtown, take some pictures, and like literally just bring them back on the cell phone so they could kind of see what things looked like. They were homebound, and it would be in my mind, kind of interesting for us to put the costs at the corner of the building that we could actually, because we're close to center location, we could have a couple cameras pointed opposite directions. It could be, you know, a service we provide, but just wanted to see if there was any prohibitions against that, or if how that would work.
Just the live cam, I think that'd be fine.
That's it.
So the snowmobilers in the middle of winter, oh, who was that?
I'll get high res for you. You're good.
Okay. Well, we welcome you.
Thank you.
Sometime maybe we can sit down and put a little article in our monthly newsletter
Sure.
going out, just to kind of let everybody know, hey, keep your eyes peeled, here comes something new.
Okay, very good.
Thank you, John.
Absolutely.
Carol, you did not want to speak tonight? Okay. Roger?
No.
Pam?
Again, I'm up here about that water situation. I have plenty of pictures, I'm gonna let y'all look at them.
Good.
My daughter got off a van one night and her feet were totally in the water, totally soaked. I'm not happy about that, but I understand we're being told it's being worked on. I've not seen anybody back there doing anything. I'm wanting to know when it's gonna happen. This is getting ridiculous.
Do you want to answer that? Actually, for those of you that do not know Pam lives back in the meadows there, the area that we have taken
These are the
some action
pictures.
on. So we would be, can we keep those pictures? Pam?
Those, yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Because we are working on some additional grant money and throughout the whole village, and they were asked to get as many pictures as possible. So Greg, you want to share with before we're out?
Actually, I just sent out a letter today to the people in your neighborhood that I have contracted with, the council has contracted with JDR Excavating. And earliest would be April, but sometime in the next few months, we're going to address the flooding in your area.
I appreciate it.
And Pam, it's not just a piecemeal, we are doing the entire area.
Right, and it's not just me,
Oh, I know.
I'm speaking for everybody.
I know.
A lot of them won't come and talk for themselves, so,
No.
you know,
But you
it's just.
should be receiving a copy of this letter. Like I said, they were sent out
This afternoon.
Today?
And again, I want to ask about the noise ordinance in town. Is there one, does it have to be cut off at a certain time?
If it's a nuisance, no. If it's too loud and it's bothering people, then I can address that.
Yeah, it's kind of loud when it keeps you up all night.
Okay, have you called and reported that?
No, because I don't mind the people partying, but, can't we turn music down as of certain times so people can sleep? That's my big issue.
And I understand that you don't want any problems with your neighbors, but if there's no complaints, I can't do anything about it. And the sheriff's department, they're out at nighttime and they can address it too.
So I should call and
You
make
should
a
call,
complaint?
yes.
Okay.
You should definitely call.
Okay.
Even if you don't want to call that night and report it with the sheriff's department and have them come over, at least leave me a message
Okay.
so I can address it and let you know where it's coming from.
Okay.
And I can even make it a point maybe to be out. So,
No, you surely can't miss it, that's for sure. Okay.
yep.
All right.
Yep, I have to know about it before I can do anything else.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Mary, did you have anything, Mary?
No.
No one else? Okay, thank you. This would be the once in a great time that we have 5 reports from different committees. I think it will happen again in March, since March and February have the exact same calendar pattern. So Mike, since we have so many, I'm just going to ask everyone, when you give your report, just give the highlights. On parks, when we get to that one, because there were some votes taken, we are going to have the specific though.
Yes. Yep.
You do have copies in front of you. Some of them are attached to the original packet, and then there are several that are attached to the administrator that supplement.
So, okay, I'll get started on the PMP. Jeremy, who's the chief of the PMP, had noted that reported in January was a busy month with 33 calls. And then also receiving, I noted in previous meeting that the heart monitors for the ambulances were getting outdated, and they're looking to have to replace those, and those are a $30,000 expense, and since they have also provided me with an estimate for those. So that's two of them, and that's one reason why they're looking at going out for the grants. And then also previously, the other reason for the grant was the fact is that their wages were low, and they had to try to increase their wages because, you know, the people that they had were leaving, and so now they got people going through training to try to get people back in. But the problem is at $12 an hour, if that's what you're paying them, it's a little rough, and because they go elsewhere, right, for more money. So that's a part of that as well. One of the other things that the PMP does is help out with school with the ADs, and they provide the batteries and the pads and so on and so forth. And so what Gene Barker and they proposed to the school was to try to help alleviate some of that if the school would pick up some of that expense on that part of it. Plus, I think it has also been noted, I'll have to dig out some information on this, but according to my understanding that like the hospital and stuff will also donate pads that they have available to provide for that as well. So other than that, the Macomb PMP, and they are in contract with Jackson Township, and with that contract, then that means that, you know, they help assist them in calls and runs. And so in some of the expenses that occurred with that contract, we probably weren't collecting or asking for enough in that contract. So the expense out of our pocket was a little bit more. So what they've done is went back to them, looking to go back to them to renew that contract for more money to offset that cost. Because, you know, there's a lot of things that when money gets appropriated, you know, back to the village, you know, or for the PMP, excuse me, that this year it comes back as, you know, being less than what they had previously years. So now it comes to the point where, you know, there's concerns of having operating expenses from 12 months from now. So there's appropriate, you know, things are getting done appropriately to try to, you know, alleviate some of that. And then, you know, with the levy, you know, you base the levy on the tax base off your housing and stuff, and that was done, I think, back in 2016, I believe, somewhere around there. But anyhow, when that's done, then, you know, that's based on that, and then when everything raises up, and then your prices start raising up, and things start costing more, it's kind of hard to offset that, right? So I just want people aware that, you know, there are concerns down there in moving forward, and that's one reason for them reaching out for this grant and try to help alleviate and offset some of those costs, right?
For the contract with Jackson Township,
yes.
Is it a price per run paid, or is it a flat fee that it's just for a 12-month period?
Well, they have a price per run fee, but what initially, I think that it was based on that so many runs, right? So now they're looking at going back to them and asking for a contract for a specified dollar amount, right? To try to help, because they know where that's going to be, because it's on the calculated runs, right? So they were collecting like $1,600, and then, you know, we had an $1,800 expense. So trying to just help price that.
At least break even.
Yeah.
Right.
You know. So anyhow.
Any other questions? Oh, I'm sorry, Mike.
That's all I have.
Any other questions for Mike on PMP? Then we'll need a motion to approve those minutes, please.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve the PMP minutes from February 15th.
there a second?
Yes, second that.
Any further discussion? Would you please call the roll?
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Feasik?
Yes.
Mrs. Fenstermaker?
Yes.
Mr. George?
Yes.
Mr. Brumbaugh?
Yes.
Mrs. Clyde?
Yes.
Okay, then Joe, you want to go over the fire, please?
Northwest Hancock Joint Fire District met on February 15th, 2022. The chief enlightened us that there have been 10 runs so far this year as of or through 2/14/2022. Anthony presented a printout from the ESO software, which was a IM responding software used by the district. It's going to be expiring, but he feels the Hancock County will renew this and continue to use this adjacent with the county. He did note that there might be an increase for this fee, but they don't know what that would be yet. The chief reported that the department's attended a 2-day Northwest Fire School for some additional training, and he stated that they will also be attending a training put on by Howell Rescue that will train them in responding to calls with the new electric vehicles and the battery packs and so forth and so on. He also gave us a short presentation that I found very interesting that showed, it's from Northwest Water and Sewer District, that showed where every fire plug is in the city and what size line feeds them and all that. It's pretty neat information that I haven't seen before. He also stated that he is scheduled to begin fire inspector training sometime in March. And there was a question asked about we have a grant that we from the Northwest Fire District applied for a grant to consider for purchase of a new grass truck, some hose, and the air packs that the guys all wear. Their air packs are all set to expire, I believe, in about 3 years, and those things, that's a very expensive proposition. They won't know anything about that grant probably until July or August. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions for Joe? Is there a motion then to approve those minutes?
Motion to approve.
Second. Second, thank you. Would you please call the roll then?
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Brumbaugh?
Yes.
Mrs. Fenstermaker?
Yes.
Mr. George?
Yes.
Mrs. Clyde?
Yes.
Mr. Feasik?
Yes.
Tyler, you're up next with planning and zoning meeting.
Yeah, we met back on February 16th at 3:30. We discussed the rooming issues on Barron Avenue. There was nothing new to report at that time during the meeting. We discussed other housing concerns as an open discussion item. There's a new auto detailing business here in town that's going to need to fill out an application.
They actually are out of Finley. If you
Finley.
look, I checked. He just
Okay.
has the sign, but it's actually in Finley.
Oh, so you just advertised this business in Finley?
It's a Facebook page that I went to.
Got it. Okay.
I did check that out for you.
Okay. Next item, there was a local food prep business that had started in town and was selling or advertising, selling food to the community. They got started, but then they were approached about filling out their application. They had since stopped selling the food for money, probably rising food prices and things of other things outside their control made that difficult, so they stopped doing that. There was an applicant to have a federal firearms license here in Macomb. The applicant changed their minds several times between whether they were going to have the business in their home or in a shed, and they changed it to online. He then has since chosen to stop pursuing that, and he's finding a location outside Macomb. Updating the current planning and zoning book. The next steps we discussed, we'll be reviewing that with Matt Cordonier with regional planning, who will be assisting us with that. Also on the land use plan, same update, Greg will be working with Matt on that to help us update those items. Zoning map, Brenda, mentioned that we're entering our 4th year. We've contacted the county engineer who's gonna be assisting us with that, and we'll need to follow up with that item. The Scroll Ditch project was discussed, it's still at the desk of the county engineer, and I think moved on to some commissioner as well, so we're waiting to hear back on that for them. The Church Street Interceptor project, the plans for that $1.4 million project here in town have been approved. Right now, the village is asking or seeking an additional $500,000 in funds that may be out there. The mayor and Greg have been working really hard to work on the village's behalf for that. Impact of other planning and zoning projects in town and upcoming. Brenda mentioned some issues with EMS shortages recently. It's something to consider moving forward. 2 other items. To pursue an AARP grant, there's an opportunity at the post office to repair some sidewalk. It's a potential trip hazard that the village may look into. And open discussion, there was a community member that mentioned there's an alley behind their house that floods a lot that the mayor and Greg will be looking at. And lastly, Kathy discussed that there's money out there for electric car charging stations, and that the village could look into that. It could be more expensive and problematic if we don't do that now. So that was it.
Any questions for Tyler? Thank you. Let's, we need a motion then to approve.
Motion to
You mean, pick one up. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Brumbaugh?
Yes.
Mrs. Fenstermaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Clyde?
Yes.
Mr. George?
Yes.
Mr. Fazy?
Yes.
And Tyler, you're up next again, unless you want me to jump to Mike, give you a breather.
No, that's okay.
Okay.
That's okay. Finance
Finance.
Committee met that same day on the 16th at 5:30. This is much shorter. Old business, we discussed increasing credit card policy for one-time purchases from $250 to $1,000. There was a motion and a second that was approved at that meeting. We reviewed then the budget ordinance that will be discussed today, and also the 2022 planned expenses and budget worksheet. New business, we looked at discussing the street employees and their pay increases and getting them more up to scale with surrounding communities, something that will be looked at in future meetings. And technology requirements, there was a new computer that was needed and it's going to be ordered. And that was it.
Any questions for Tyler on that? If not, then is there a motion to approve those minutes?
Make a motion.
Go ahead,
Mr.
please.
Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Brumbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Fazy?
Yes.
Mr. George?
Yes.
Mrs. Clyde?
Yes.
Mrs. Fenstermaker?
Yes.
Thank you. Anything under old business? New business? Joe, do you have anything to add for this evening?
I really don't have anything, thank you.
Oh, I missed you, Mike.
I was gonna say, you want me to?
I was just
Are you
trying
just
to
trying to
move it along.
prolong
I'm
that?
so sorry. You gave me the look.
Are you prolonging that?
Okay, let's go to the next form for
All right.
Parks and Recreation. I'm sorry.
Parks and Recs. Okay, under old business, we had some requests to use the lights at the Ball Diamonds in the, for the night games. So previously there was some concerns because when we turned the power on back there, that was on had a demand meter on it, and so if you turned them on all at once, the city got hit with a bill of $600. So since then we have dug into that. And it is with AEP, and Greg reached out to them, and then I also was down and I counted the lights and figured, got the bulb wattage and all that good stuff. So, needless to say, when it all was said and done, after we researched, they replaced the meter, and it has a standard meter on it now. So for a 3-hour period, it would cost $37 for a 3-hour period for a night game. So, and I will tell you this, Mr. Fasik, which is myself, agreed to pay and put it into, I'm gonna pay for 6 games for baseball, and I'm gonna pay for 6 games for softball to have the lights turned on out of my pocket. But I will look at proposing that we start like a lighting fund to put that money in, because I'm sure there's other businesses in town that would help donate to that and give more back to the kids in the community.
Coniston for $350.
So, okay.
Mark your name.
So I'm asking for a motion to approve that we approve to give them the option to use the lights. So,
Okay, that came out of that committee, so council will need to follow up with that since that was a motion.
yeah.
So he made the motion, we'll need a second.
Second that.
And then Melissa, go ahead and call. Do you have anything you want to comment on the lights?
No, I reached out to AEP, Mr. Richard Doherty, nice gentleman. He understood what was going on there, and he said that it should have been corrected, and it was sometime in 19 possibly. And he figured out, Mike, we tried to figure out the watts, how many hours, and Richard figured all that out for us, and it comes up, that's how we got $37 for a 3-hour game. Of course, the more you use it, the cost per watts goes down. So like 675 kilowatt hours was $92, and that's equivalent to maybe 5 games. So.
Okay, would you please call the roll then?
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Brumbaugh?
Yes.
Mrs. Fenstermaker?
Yes.
Mr. George?
Yes.
Mrs. Clyde?
Yes.
Mr. Fasey?
Yes. Okay, then, the second item on the issue was the gate that we have back that's located at the tennis courts. And it was agreed, a motion was made to bring this to council and looking at removing that gate because of the fact that we're looking at issues. I know the park there's different notes that the park's open 24/7, and then also stated that it's not, and there's signs posted down there, closed at dusk. But then also in document 174.050, park rules and regulations, it has fishing is permitted 24 hours a day. So that means anybody at any point in time can walk in and access that park and be back there. And the problem that I have, or we have, that was addressed, was with closing of that gate, if someone was to get back there and fall in the reservoir, and they needed service and rescue, with that gate closed, it'd be a problem. So, does anybody have any questions or concerns?
But I have some concerns, so I do want to speak up if I can, please.
Sure.
As for the park being open 24/7, most parks are closed at dark.
Yep.
And there's a reason for that, and it's to help the traffic flow, so not just anybody goes in and out. The standard person says, it's closed, I won't go in. If people are going in and out of that park because it's open 24/7, then I can't help keep things down back there when it comes to destruction. You guys are complaining that somebody's going back there terrorizing the new parking area. If it's closed at dark and someone's caught back there at dark, then I can push them out of the park.
Correct.
As for the fishing, I get it. Adults are going to go up and fish. and they're gonna have common sense and they're not gonna destroy the park. But if I have a kid back there and it's open 24/7, unless they're past curfew, I can't push them out of the park. If something gets destroyed back there or graffiti happens, then I can't blame them. This way I can say, I caught you back in the park. If it goes the other way, then they're gonna say, well, anybody can get back in this park. So I just think we should look at that, about closing the park at dark. I'm not saying that you have to close the gates. I understand the part of the gates, but I think we should put the signs up on the gates saying the park is closed after dark.
Well, I understand your point behind that, and I think maybe that we post more signs back there, if that be the case. But I don't think the gates are doing us any justice back there. And then on item number 4 in this list, we're putting up additional cameras back there that would help monitor that as well.
But cameras aren't gonna do us any good at night. You're gonna see a silhouette. You're not gonna see who it is. They're not gonna do you any good at night.
Okay.
I'm just throwing that out there.
If we left the gates there, would that be more of just a deterrent for people and said the hours? I've talked to the solicitor a little bit about the hours and timing. Do you want to chime in what your thoughts?
Oakwood's comment?
Is that the word?
Well, I mean, Oakwood's Park, it's in Finley, the old quarry there by the highway. They get a lot of fishing traffic there, and that particular body of water is big enough for a boat. But you can't use a boat and be out there without first contacting the city and getting a permit that says on Thursday I'm gonna be out there from 5 to 9 or midnight to 4 or whatever time you want to be out there. And all that does is raise the issue that the parties that are of concern know that you're out there. If they need to do a drive-by to make sure that you're all right or nothing's going wrong, is done. That would keep your fishing part of it open.
Right.
If it gets used that much, so they could come in here to the village hall and know that they want to use it on Thursday and get their permit, and everybody knows they're out there. And if anything goes haywire out there, they can be contacted to find out what they know, if something's going on, or if they did. That protects your fishermen. Other than that, I don't know who should be out there at night.
Well, on that part of it, fishing wise, under this 174050 document, it states in there, fishing is permitted 24 hours a day. Boats, however, will be only permitted on reservoir number 2. Boats will only be permitted during the daylight hours as defined by the Division A above. And no hunting, trapping, shooting, or use of firearms, bows, arrows, and or fireworks are permitted within the park playground, and ice fishing is not permitted. So that pretty much covers the rest of that as well on that part of it.
Mike, you fish a lot. Is there a lot of activity at night fishing? I would not.
Yeah, there is.
Okay.
Yeah, and there, I go, sometimes I don't go late at night, but sometimes I'm up there early in the morning. And,
So I guess we need to determine how you want to handle it. Do you want the gates totally removed, or get some of the signage up?
I honestly don't think they're worth keeping there in the shape that they're in, because one, they weren't even set in concrete to begin with, they're falling over. Honestly, I think they need to be removed, but that's my opinion. And I think we need to post probably more signs.
Well, definitely, and I think we've got a few more signs.
I would agree.
So is there a motion, and we'll just take a vote and see how it goes?
Make a motion to remove the gates from the park and add additional signs.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Then go ahead and call the roll.
We don't want to go with night fishing permits at all.
That's entirely up to,
Is that additional to the removing of the gate?
that would be,
Yes,
right.
yes.
I don't think it's a bad idea to have.
I think it's a good idea.
Because then the police have something to stand on if you're out there.
Safety issue too. Who's out there? I think we're the permit, we're not who's there.
I used to fish at night out there quite a bit, and there was, every once in a while, chaos going on. I think there should be permit for night fishing.
I would just be for the safety of the fishermen, that's how I'm looking at it. 'cause you
Yes.
never know who's coming up.
I mean, if you,
Yeah.
Is that an additional motion then? Is that part of the thing?
Let's just do the gates first, and then we can talk about actually, we can get a copy of Finley's and then look at it maybe for the next.
Yeah, I don't think they charge for it either.
They
Yeah.
should.
Yeah.
No charge.
So, the motion again is for the removal of the gates and additional signage.
Add additional signage.
So we have a first and second, so please call the roll then.
Mr. Brown?
yes.
Mr. Fazy?
Yes.
Mrs. Fenstermaker? Mr. George?
No.
Mr. Brumbaugh?
Yes.
Mrs. Clyde?
Yes.
Okay. I'll just get a hold of the Finley Park District and see what their permit looks like, and then share it at the next meeting or send it out so everybody gets a chance to look at it. Okay. Okay, you're up next again, Mr. Kasich.
All right. The approval fees and hours of operation for the pool, we gave permission was given to place an ad for the pool manager and lifeguards. The number of lifeguards was reduced to what was done previously, reduced down to 3 lifeguards with 1 additional assistant lifeguard, and 1 pool manager with 1 of the 3 lifeguards as being assistant manager. In this thought process, that was, we reached out to the YMCA and looked at having them be the manager of our pool. And when it came down to it, this is what they were proposing, but then also dollar amount wise, it was far beyond what we expected to pay, right? And it would cost the village more money. So we decided to keep it internal and manage it and bring everything down within line. The hours of operation was determined to be open from 1 to 6, and with the option of extended times based on temperature. So then, pool parties are would be from 7 to 9, and that was all, everything. We made a motion to approve this and bring this to council. And does anyone have any questions or concerns?
Do you want to do that ordinance now? Or you want to wait? Just do that. We'll do, since the pool parties is part of that ordinance, we'll just keep that all in the ordinance, and we'll do it when we get to that.
Sure, okay.
Okay?
Yep, no problem.
So we're on to number 4.
On number 4. So adding cameras, it was adding cameras to the back to cover the new parking lot, and then also back in the back area near the equipment barn for the backside. Tyler Brumbaugh, he had 6 cameras, signs for notification that cameras are present, and he was willing to donate those to the village of Macomb. And the cameras were covered. The 2 cameras that are being put up, those were previously covered by an existing grant where we purchased 8 cameras, and 6 of them were used at the pool, and so we were using these other 2 to locate in the other areas in the park, and we had a motion to approve that and bring that to council.
Okay, so Mr. Basic made a motion to approve that. Is there a second for that one?
I'll second that.
Any other comments? Go ahead and please call the roll.
Mr. Brumbaugh?
Yes.
Mrs. Fenstermaker?
Yes.
Mr. George?
Yes.
Mrs. Clyde?
I'm sorry, yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Fazy?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
This item 5, is that where we tabled this one, right? So, just on the, item number 5 was getting bids for the pump in the restrooms at the park. There's a porta restroom, a permanent porta restroom, that would be beside Diamond number 1 and 2. And then there's another one back in, which is a unisex bathroom, so there's only one 750-gallon tank. And then back at Diamond 3 and 4, the men's and women's back there, which is additional 1,500 gallons, 750 per tank there. And so the decision was made at this point in time during that meeting was to table that and gather further information. And I believe Greg then has that in his report for tonight to go over that part. Okay. All right, so under new business, I had the same thing with Greg had under his was the swimming pool rates, which is now in reference to our ordinance 2204, and then other things that were agreed upon as good ideas was let's see, Haley Sherry was contacted Greg about setting up a concession stand in the back to kind of help raise money for their softball teams and stuff, and to offset, you know, some of their fundraisers, right? So it was agreed that Haley would have to fill out a park permit, vendor park permit through Macomb, and that if she was doing any selling of any hot foods or anything, that she would have to go through the Hancock County Board of Vendors and have that applied before she applied for the Macomb permit. Okay, so then, item 4 was asked if that was what we just got through agreeing to with the lights. That was also referenced, and then, like I said, also noted, we figured out got the price and all that good stuff. So it's kind of double there. Okay. Greg wanted to know about the agreement that we had with the school, that they pay, right now, they pay $1,200 a year to help offset the cost down there because the village takes care of the diamonds, mowing the diamonds and dragging them and lining them for the games. And that's $600 per field 1 and $600 per field 2. And when it was calculated out, we determined that at this point in time, it was agreed upon that the contract in its present state was sufficient enough to cover those costs. So that one's bringing to approval for council, right? We agreed on the existing contract.
Right, but there was no motion made.
Right, no motion made, correct. Okay. All right. Greg also brought up, he wanted to look at bringing a high school kid in to help out down at the park doing weed whacking, and that he had a person, a high school kid in mind, and this was approved and presented. We agreed on a rate that if we were to do this, it would be in line with what we're paying the lifeguards at the pool of a $10 an hour rate. And it would be only for 10 to 15 hours per week, and then the park would be segregated out so he would know exactly which areas he's got to do and pre-planned out for him, right? So, all right, item 7, and that was agreed on to present to council. And then item 7, the pool building needs attention. This spring, the fascia boards were rotting and need to be replaced. The building needs a paint job, and Greg had contacted Sherwin-Williams about last year about paint we could use and had it lined up. But last year the weather turned out and they couldn't get it started. So I had asked Greg if it's possible to, when we reach out to Sherwin-Williams and ask if we can get since we're the community and it's at the park, to see if we can ask for a little bit of discount when we pick up the paint and do that stuff. And then they agreed to going out and getting bids to look at getting the fascia taken care of and getting the pool painted and just done. And this was agreed to present this to council as well. Item number 8, Greg also would like to get plumbing installed for the pool. And right now they have to come inside the chemical room to fill the tanks. And the thought process was to extend the PVC pipes out and through the wall to be capped and make it where they can fill those tanks from the outside. And this would reduce the chance of him getting hurt while he was filling up the chemicals, and it would make it a lot easier process, right? So that was agreed to be brought to council. Okay, all in all, then I myself brought up a lot of things with mowing, trimming, the guys putting out the trash, all the stuff that goes on down to the park, opening up the restrooms, cleaning the restrooms, spraying them down, and doing all kinds of stuff, and trimming trees, and the treatment and painting of the shelters, and painting the picnic tables, and all a bunch of stuff, which I am collecting data and gathering hours and times for the guys that work down there to try to put together something that we can more understand where all the hours and times are going to, right? But also to understand that when you see the guys down there on the mower, that's not the only thing they do. They don't just mow. There's a lot of other things involved with that. Let's see. And then item 13 on that, Brad Brown asked who was in charge of the disc golf, which is it was noted that Mike Taylor. And it was also noted that it consists of 36 halls. But one thing that we have concerns with is also noted is when having the disc golf tournaments, they kind of come in and take up a lot of the area, and depending on what else is going on. But I think it was also talked and discussed about there that we probably need to look at having them fill out permits to use the park down there with that disc golf, not to take away anything, but just so we have an understanding to be coordinated with some other events that may be going on, right, at the same time, because that could consume a lot of people down there. So I did reach out to Mike Taylor. I coached his kid, one of his kids wrestled for me, so I reached out and requested to have a sit down with him and go over some of that information with him. So at this point in time, all right, so item 14, Village Administrator Greg Light brought up that the village had a request from Kevin Cipher, old village administrator, to purchase the old ice skating rink. Okay. At this point in time, we tabled that for further discussion and deciding on whether, how we're going to go about that. Item 15, wages for Don Andoni and Jack Myers. Don responded when asked. He was making $11.95 an hour. Jack Myers was making $10.20 an hour. And then, we talked about the high school kid bringing in a 10, so on and so forth. Well, then Don Andonian responded back that he does not expect to get a raise, but he feels like Jack Myers should be increased to the rate of pay where Jack or Don is at, due to the fact that both of those guys work side by side, and a lot of them do the same work back there, as far as mowing, trimming, and taking out the trash and doing all that stuff, right? And then Council President Joe George made a request to remove the railroad ties that are lined flat from reservoir number 2, lower parking lot, to the back ball diamonds number 3 and 4. This will help reduce the time for mowing, because then they won't have to trim around them, right? My only one concern that I had brought up was the fact that of opening that up, then we're also opening up the chances for people parking on the grass, right? So all in all, everybody is in agreement to remove the railroad ties and present this to council as well. think that's it.
Okay, so some of the recommendations that were not motions, we
Right.
will need then approval of the minutes presented. We'll go back to the beginning.
Yep.
From February 21st.
Yes, February 21st.
Is there a motion to approve them?
Make a motion to approve the minutes on February 21st.
Second.
Any further discussion? And please call the roll.
Mr. Brumbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Fezak?
Yes.
Mrs. Fenstermaker?
Yes.
Mr. George?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mrs. Clyde?
Yes.
Okay, we did not have any old business, new business since I jumped ahead. Sorry about that. Joe, we were up to you on council reports.
I don't have anything, thank you.
Brad?
I'm gonna have one thing. Had a few complaints that on the website hasn't been any recordings of council meetings.
We are working on that. The
Okay.
recording, we do know how to turn the camera on.
Right.
Melissa usually gets a hold of Seth to send them down, and then it's Haley that puts them on, so.
Okay.
I will say something to her again tomorrow.
I think we're only one, we should only be one behind as of last meeting, because I gave her, she got,
I'll have to get on.
yeah, I need to
I
check
thought we were a
that
couple
too.
behind.
I think we're a couple behind.
Okay. They just weren't, they're here, I think, but they're just
Okay.
not posted.
I wish it was a real easy process, believe me.
Yeah.
It would be really nice.
And there was updates made, right? You removed the development sites.
Mhm. Well, I asked her to, I put a sticky note, she was out Thursday
She
and
did.
Friday, so I put a sticky note and asked her
She-
to
she-
remove
she
those.
did.
Good.
Yeah, I noticed that earlier.
Anything else, Brad?
No.
Mike?
Yeah. Yes, I do. As we previously noted, that I had some citizens that wanted to be able to sign up in the village website to receive updates when things were changed and updated on the website. That way they could stay more informed and be attention to the meeting minutes and when they were posted and so on and so forth. So what I have in front of you was Haley reached out to the web server, the gentleman that controls that, Dan Pappy, and discussed that because initially thought there was going to be a cost behind that, but actually that's a part of the service that's available to Macomb. And I printed off a sheet that kind of gives our opening web page. And option one was to give a sign up for updates in the main bar next to Economic Development Group. And as you see, we have this bar here and right there. And then they would look at putting a hyperlink tag right there to be able to send you to that to sign up for the updates. You'll end up entering your name in, your email, and then whenever anything's updated to the village website, it'll notify you via email. Okay? So then the other option was 2, and up here in this corner is a Replace Now button, a Pay Now button in the header, and they're talking about replacing that button with the sign up for updates up there. My honest opinion, I would rather not change what we have existing because someone may be used to using it that way. I think we don't go that route. I think, and then option 3 would be, you got 4 quick links across the bottom, and I asked about this if we could go 5, and the problem is with the spacing and with tablets and phones and so on and so forth, it would cause too much. So what he proposed there was if we would remove one of these hot links, but I still at that same point am thinking that this is just my opinion that we don't want to take away what someone may be used to already, right? So honestly, I think we just put it in the header and do option 1 and place that in the header up here beside the economic development, so that way it affects nothing the way the page was originally laid out. But that's just my opinion. Does anybody have any?
So do you want to just explain, so if I have this correct, anytime Haley goes on, or any other administrator for the web page
Yes.
goes on, makes any changes, these people who have signed up for this service are notified basically?
Yes.
On their phone or
Yeah,
whatever?
they're notified, well, they're notified via email, and it'll come in through their email, and they'll get an email saying that, you know, letting them know that the village website has been updated. I don't know, I cannot tell you at this point how much detail that's gonna be at this point, but it will give you a notification.
If I could make a recommendation on that?
Sure.
Specifically, like, there's a lot of services that I use for different ventures that we're involved in. You're gonna get a lot of folks that are getting emails every 5 seconds, because every
Oh,
time.
no. Yeah, so it is set up so she can control that.
Right.
So when she's done doing what she does, she'll click a button and then exit out of it, right? So it's not, you know, if she does it once this day that she has to go back in, she can alleviate not doing that again.
Okay.
Until, you know, and try, you know, however it need to be, right? So that way you don't get 50 emails that they've updated the website, right?
Yep. The one thing, maybe just to be a bit clearer with it, let's say somebody is just curious about when the videos go up.
Sure.
That person, if they were to click that header link right there, when they first sign up, there maybe is going to be another checkbox that pops up that says, I'm interested in getting updates on just this, this, and this.
That was one of my original thought processes.
Okay.
That way you could select a category and area
that you are interested
that
in.
you were interested in.
All the other stuff goes away.
Right.
Correct.
But that will have to be, I know what you're saying, because I've already thought of that as well, but I'll have to present that back to the Meeting Link, who
Sure.
is the web server for our village. I'm sure that's probably an option, but.
It shouldn't be too tough.
Okay, anything else?
So I guess I'm just asking to move forward with this. It's gonna take, it's gonna be a process, right? Danny, Pepe had noted that, you know, or Pappy noted that, you know, that this is not gonna happen overnight, that it's gonna take some time for him to get this set up, right?
Who is going to be the administrator of this, or?
If I understand, it doesn't take an
It
administrator.
doesn't take an administrator, it's automatic. Once he sets it up, everything's done automatic. So when Haley
Never
goes
gonna
up-
be any problems with it, nobody's ever gonna have any issues with it. Who's gonna answer all the questions? Idiots like me that don't understand it.
Oh, you're not an idiot, Joe.
Well, I am when it comes to that, what
Well-
you're talking about right now.
Well, you're far from that. So, but anyhow, that is all contracted. We pay MuniLink, and that's a part of our contract.
I was just gonna ask if there's an increase, because I just got.
No,
the bill.
there's no increase in it. He specifically stated, Haley
That's
asked.
why I had Haley ask.
She goes, will there be a cost to us on anything? He says, no cost, but it will take a while to integrate. Because that's a part of their service,
We
right?
pay about $3,000 a year for that.
Right.
Website.
And we have things available to us that they set that up, Joe, it's real easy for them to do it. It's managed through their server. So,
The only people that will have notification are those that sign up to receive that.
right.
And want the ding, ding, dings all the time.
Yes.
And they probably would remove themselves if they decide they don't want, we wouldn't have to do it.
No, you wouldn't have to do it,
That's what I
yeah.
was thinking.
All they'll do is, in their email at the bottom, it'll have a hot link tab
Yeah.
that they can click and unsubscribe.
Yeah.
And that's their choice then at that point. But I just feel it's a way to help communicate and put things back out to the citizens and giving them availability to get this information.
Okay, thank you. Beth, do you have anything?
No, I do not. Thank you.
Pardon me?
No, I don't.
No? Okay. Sarah?
Not at this time.
Tyler?
Just a meeting still on the third for the building over here, that was my only question, but no, I'm good. That's all.
Okay, we have legislative, some items tonight. Melissa, you want to start through those?
Ordinance
2022-01, an ordinance adopting the final budget for the village of Macomb, Ohio, for fiscal year ending December 31st, 2022, and declaring an emergency.
I move to suspend the second and third reading for